The shrill, sudden hubbub of the break hour pierced my eardrums in an instant. My fingertips jolted violently, and my pen slipped straight through my fingers, clattering onto the Senior 3 review papers spread out before me. A dark ink blot seeped across the page, blurring the analytical formulas printed there and jerking my foggy consciousness back into sharp focus. I snapped my head up. Before me stood an aging multimedia blackboard, its top right corner plastered with a faded banner for the 100-day oath rally. All around rose overlapping sounds of recitation and idle chatter, while outside the window, familiar camphor branches swayed and cast flickering shadows. This was not the stifling, drab rental flat, not the 28-year-old me, wasting away, plagued by endless chronic illness. I was back to the second semester of Senior 3. Only one day remained until the school-organized voluntary blood donation drive for charity. My heart constricted abruptly, an icy chill creeping through every limb and vein. All the suppression, agony and resentment I'd endured over 10 years of my past life surged to the surface at once, yet I forced every trace of it deep down, revealing nothing to anyone. It had been just such a sweltering, noisy break in my previous life. Head teacher Mr. Gung had walked into the classroom and casually mentioned that the city blood bank would partner with the school for a charity blood donation campaign. Participation was voluntary. Those who signed up would earn class quantitative points, plus extra moral education points for individual merit evaluations. That seemingly ordinary announcement rewrote the fates of most students in our class entirely. Back then, I was timid and reserved, never good with words. I watched when Ziyi, the class beauty with an effortlessly radiant aura, stepped forward first, wearing a soft, virtuous expression. She volunteered to lead the registration drive, spouting slogans of doing good for charity and bringing honor to the class. Her loyal follower Jiang Yinhua echoed her instantly. Next came Meng Lekai, who craved attention. Yin Xingran, the top scholar obsessed with awards, and Runing and Gao Jingyu, sports students convinced they possessed flawless physical fitness, and Wu Zhaoyang, the honest boy terrified of being ostracized. Most of the class flocked to sign up one after another. No one knew that minors under 18 were strictly prohibited from unpaid blood donation. Nor did anyone stop to consider that after an entire year of grueling exam drills and late-night cramming, every single one of us was already severely drained of vital energy and blood. Deep down, I'd sensed something amiss in my past life and hesitated to sign up right away. For this, the whole class mocked me relentlessly, calling me selfish, cold-hearted, devoid of basic compassion. Everyone else signed up. Why do you have to be the odd one out? It's just a little blood. You won't lose a piece of flesh over it. Are you really that stingy? When Ziyi's already taking the lead, how can you refuse and drag our class down? Wave after wave of teasing, blame and exclusion left me with nowhere to turn. In the end, I caved and registered, submitting to the same full blood draw as everyone else. That trivial-seeming charitable blood donation marked the beginning of all our lives unraveling. A minor's hematopoietic system is not fully developed, and the damage inflicted by sudden heavy blood loss is irreversible. In the years that followed, I suffered persistent blood and qi deficiency, chronic insomnia, palpitations, and a catastrophic collapse in memory. After 12 years of relentless studying, I failed the college entrance exam and only got into an obscure junior college. For the next decade, I was haunted by anemia, chronic weakness and dizzy spells, unable to summon the strength to excel at anything I tried. Those classmates who jeered at me and rushed eagerly to donate blood fared little better. When Ziyi, who'd chased the spotlight, fell chronically ill, frequently fainting mid-lesson, her grades plummeted, costing her a guaranteed spot at a prestigious key university, and all her merit awards slipped through her fingers. Jiang Yinhua endured constant menstrual disorders and severe anemia, her face perpetually ashen, her composure shattering during the college entrance exam. Track specialist and Runing lost all athletic stamina, missing her separate recruitment opportunity. Gao Jingyu, a prospective national defense student, was diagnosed with arrhythmia, barring him entirely from military academy admission. Top student Yin Xingran's memory deteriorated severely, never regaining her former academic edge. An entire class ruined their health and futures over a vain, Herd mentality blood drive. I watched them all once vibrant. Ambitious senior 3 students slip step by step into the depths of despair, trapped by lifelong after effects. Yet the true root of all this ruin was never the school, nor the nurses. It was each of them, consumed by vanity, blindly following the crowd, and cruelly mocking others all those years ago. In my past life, I was weak and passive, swept along by others and crushed under endless suffering. But in this life, I, Chu Yenhe, have been reborn. Wide awake and crystal clear, I will not try to dissuade anyone. I will no longer play the fool who offers well-meaning warnings only to be shunned by the whole class. Human vanity and herd mentality cannot be cured by a few simple words. Back then, they reveled in the glory of being seen as benevolent leaders and the superiority of fitting in with the group. Now they must bear the lifelong consequences. I lifted my eyes, my gaze sweeping calmly across the front of the classroom. When Ziyi stood surrounded by a circle of girls chatting and laughing. She wore a crisp school uniform, her long hair neatly tied back, soft-eyed with a perfectly measured smile playing on her lips. Every gesture radiating the pride of being the center of everyone's admiration. She had always craved titles like role model, charity volunteer and honor student. She excelled at performing kindness for teachers and crafting a persona of generosity in front of classmates. The next second, head teacher Mr. Geng stepped into the room clutching a stack of notification slips, and the noisy break fell silent at once. He set the documents down on the podium, his tone laced with obvious bias. Class, I have an announcement. Tomorrow, the City Blood Bank will host a voluntary charitable blood donation drive here. Participation is optional. Students who take part will receive 5 individual moral education points, and our class will also earn quantitative points. This will greatly benefit our bids for civilized class, outstanding class cadre and merit student awards later on. As his words faded, soft murmurs rippled through the room. Extra moral points. That's such a good deal. Blood donation can't be that bad. It only takes a minute or two. If lots of us sign up, our class points will shoot up for sure. Every single person fixated on extra points, awards and class prestige. Not a soul stopped to wonder if their underage bodies could withstand blood loss. Mr. Geng scanned the class and smiled, adding, as senior 3 students, you must excel not only academically but also morally. Taking an active part in this charitable event is commendable. I hope everyone pitches in to show our class's spirit. Is there anyone willing to step forward and lead the registration tally? The instant he finished speaking, every pair of eyes locked onto Wenzi. It was the exact same scene as in my past life. Everyone took it for granted that Wenzi, gentle, well-liked class favorite adored by all teachers, was the perfect candidate to lead the effort. A bright spark lit up Wenzi's eyes, blazing with insatiable hunger for praise, awards and the spotlight. She straightened her back slightly, ready to raise her hand and volunteer, but I stood up first. All gazes swiveled toward me, filled with astonishment. I had always been quiet, never one to seek attention or volunteer for class responsibilities. My expression remained placid, my tone steady and unforced, as if offering nothing more than a sincere suggestion. Teacher, Z would be the ideal person to lead this charity activity. When Z froze mid-motion, her hand hovering in the air as she shot me a surprised glance, I met every stare in the room and spoke unhurriedly, each word striking straight at her deepest desires. Z has always had impeccable morals. She regularly volunteers to help classmates and take on class duties, and she holds immense prestige among us. If she leads the registration and encourages everyone to join, she'll surely rally the whole class. Our sign-up numbers will be the highest in the entire grade, bringing immense glory to our class. Mr. Geng's face lit up instantly, nodding repeatedly. Chu Yenhe is absolutely right. Wenzi, would you take charge of this? I turned to glance at Wenzi, my eyes brimming with carefully calibrated sincerity and approval, adding softly, what's more, those leading charity drives get priority consideration for merit awards from this event. It will give you a massive edge in competing for school-level outstanding student. There was no coercion, no manipulation, only natural, genuine praise and plain truth. Yet I knew those words would completely sway her. A faint, delighted blush spread across Wenzi's cheeks. all trace of hesitation vanishing, replaced by unbridled confidence and vanity. She lived for moments like this, universally acknowledged, trusted by teachers, showered with extra accolades. She nodded gently and spoke in a soft, warm voice. Very well, teacher. I'll take charge. I'll tally everyone who wishes to sign up and hand the list over to you later. Wonderful. Wonderful, thank you so much. Mr. Gung's face shone with undisguised fondness. Organize this well, and let's aim for the title of Outstanding Charity Class. With the teacher's full endorsement, Wen Ziyi's smile grew even brighter. Once Mr. Gung left, the classroom erupted in chatter. Jiang Yunhua rushed straight to Wen Ziyi's side, her tone sycophantic and elated. Ziyi, you're incredible. The teacher put the whole thing in your hands. You're guaranteed to win the merit award this time. I'll sign up first. Count me in too. Meng Lekai shot his hand up, grinning and egging everyone on. We have to support a charity drive led by our class beauty. And Rinning flicked her ponytail and said boldly, I'm joining too. I've got great physical stamina, giving blood won't bother me one bit. And I'll rack up moral points. Total win. Gao Jingyu spoke quietly as well. I'll sign up. It's a worthy charitable cause. Within mere minutes, most students had volunteered without pause or doubt. Everyone drowned in the glow of perceived benevolence, the lure of extra points, and the comfort of fitting in with the crowd. None of them realized they were racing headlong toward an abyss that would upend their entire lives. Surrounded by her peers, Wen Ziyi clutched a blank registration form. Radiating triumph, she bent her head to record each name carefully, responding softly to every volunteer, savoring the class's unceasing admiration and praise. I quietly slid back into my seat, picked up my pen, and turned my attention once more to the review papers laid out before me. All around me swelled echoing words of agreement and cheerful chatter. Before my eyes stretched faces brimming with youthful ambition and naive anticipation. No emotion stirred within my heart, only frigid, unshakable calm. In my past life, you forced me to conform, forced me to compromise, mocked my caution, and traded your health and futures for fleeting vanity. In this life, I will not stop you, warn you, or expose the truth. I merely smooth the path to grant you all the kindness and glory you crave. The blood collection site tomorrow, the hidden physical ailments the day after, the academic collapse half a month later, the shattered lives months down the line. Every single consequence will arrive right on schedule. You planted the seeds yourselves, and you alone must swallow every bitter fruit they bear. As for me, I will watch on with cold detachment, witnessing how your entire lives crumble overnight beneath the veneer of this glorious charitable cause. The chatter of the break lingered for an entire class period. Wen Ziyi sat at her desk, scribbling non-stop on the registration form, perpetually surrounded by classmates stepping forward to sign up. I stayed rooted in my seat, head bowed over practice papers, seemingly absorbed in my work. Yet the corners of my eyes captured every flicker of emotion, every small movement, every word exchanged around me. No one was being forced. Every eager volunteer acted out of undisguised self-interest. Jiang Yunhua tagged along solely to cling to Wen Ziyi, preserve her position as the girl's sidekick, and leech off the class beauty's popularity to win favor with others. Meng Lekai simply craved the spotlight, eager to craft a public persona as a warm-hearted charity enthusiast for teachers and peers alike. And Rinning and Gao Jingyu trusted their years of athletic training and robust constitutions, dismissing blood donation as a trivial matter, fixated only on moral education points and class honors. Yin Xingran thought more far-sightedly. She knew a school-level charity record would enrich her comprehensive quality evaluation file, offering unspoken advantages for university comprehensive recruitment applications down the line. Even the quietest, most docile boy Wu Xiaoyang hesitated, clutching his pen for a long moment, before finally walking over to Wen Ziyi's desk to sign his name. He was afraid that refusing to register would brand him selfish, cold, and a social outcast, shunned by the whole class. The exact same array of human motives. The same blind vanity as in my past life. Only this time, no one dared badger me, pressure me, or sneer at me. Earlier, when I'd publicly sung Wenzi's praises and volunteered her to lead the campaign. Everyone had subconsciously written me off as no longer the timid, withdrawn oddity who lacked compassion. No one cared whether I would sign up now. All attention was fixed firmly on this grand class charity event. As the bell neared, when Wenzi finally finished tallying the names, she lifted a hand to tuck stray hairs behind her temple, wearing a poised, gentle smile as she stood with the fully filled registration sheet and scanned the classroom. "Thank you all for supporting our class charity drive. I am truly touched." Her voice was soft yet remarkably persuasive, undisguised pride glinting in her eyes. "Medical staff from the city blood bank will come to the school auditorium for blood collection at 9 tomorrow morning. Get an early rest tonight. There's no need to be nervous. Donating blood is a simple thing. We get to help others through charity, bring glory to our class, and earn moral education points for ourselves. A win-win opportunity." A chorus of agreement rippled through the classroom the second she finished speaking. Head teacher Mr. Gung walked in right then, spotting the densely packed registration form in Wenzi's hands. His smile widened, and he hurried to the podium. "Excellent work, Wenzi. Your collective class spirit shines through each and every one of you." Mr. Gung glanced over the list, his tone brimming with delight. 37 out of 41 students in our class have signed up to donate blood. Our participation rate will undoubtedly top the entire grade. I'll submit our class's performance to the Moral Education Office immediately to compete for the title of Outstanding Charity Class. I'll log all extra moral points for participating students into the school system after class. Cheers erupted across the room. Mang Lakai clapped and grinned. "We have Z to thank for this. Without someone stepping up to organize us, our class would never have been this enthusiastic." "Exactly. It's all thanks to Z volunteering to take charge." Jiang Yunhua quickly chimed in, showering Wenzi with compliments. No one else would have been this responsible, patiently tallying every single name one by one. Flustered by the flood of praise, Wenzi's cheeks flushed faintly. She shook her head in feigned modesty. "It's only thanks to everyone's cooperation. I merely helped keep track of the list. Besides, contributing to our class in charitable causes is simply my duty." Her polished, benevolent words easily won the affection of both teachers and classmates, cementing her position as the class's moral benchmark. I kept my head down over my exercises, utterly indifferent inside. They had no idea this so-called small act of kindness was far too taxing for underage teenagers like us. State regulations explicitly ban unpaid blood donation for anyone under 18. The rule is not unreasonably strict. It exists because adolescents' cardiopulmonary and hematopoietic systems remain underdeveloped, with limited bone marrow blood production capacity. As senior 3 students, we pulled all-nighters drilling exam questions and endured relentless academic pressure every day. Our vital chi and blood perpetually depleted. Donating blood right now was not an act of charity. It meant draining the very foundation of our health. But I would not utter a single word of warning. In my previous life, I'd spoken up with good intentions. I'd told them we were still minors whose bodies could not endure blood loss. That draining blood amid exam preparation would ruin memory and mental stamina. What had I gotten in return? Wenzi had retorted gently yet coldly. "Chu Yanhe, aren't you being overly pessimistic? Students donate blood every year. There are hardly ever any issues. Charity stems from the heart. There's no need to overthink every little detail." The whole class had ganged up to berate me, labeling me cold and selfish, claiming I overreacted, hindered the class's award chances, and spoiled everyone's good deed. I'd tried to save them, yet they'd painted me as the villain. So in this life, I would let them embrace their noble self-image wholeheartedly. The class bell rang, and Mr. Gung began going over exam papers. The classroom quickly fell silent, save for the scratch of pens against paper, though I appeared to listen intently. My mind replayed every memory from my past life with crystal clarity. The registration list was nearly identical to the one from back then, with only my name missing. In my previous life, hounded by the whole class, I'd been forced to sign my name and march alongside them toward disaster. This time, I stood completely apart. During the break between periods, Yin Xingran carried her exercise workbook over to Wenzi, speaking cautiously. "Z, A thought just crossed my mind. We're all under 18. Would the school organizing blood donation even comply with official regulations? This was the only flicker of rational doubt in the entire room. My pen paused mid-stroke, and I lifted my gaze to watch the two girls. At once. When Zee smiled to soothe her worries. Don't fret. If the school dares to host this event, they must have filed all necessary official reports. There won't be any trouble. Many high schools across the city are running identical drives. We're not the only ones. She paused, then brought up words and logic to erase Inxingran's lingering unease entirely. Think about the moral education points, your comprehensive evaluation file, and our class awards. All those benefits far outweigh a little temporary discomfort. We're high school students, our bodies are surely strong enough. Inxingran fell silent for several seconds before ultimately nodding. You're right. I'll go through with it tomorrow. Top scholars priori ties their futures above all else. Tempted by extra points for university applications, all faint misgivings melted away. Over on the other side of the room, Gao Jingyu chatted with Enruning. I train every single day. Donating 200 milliliters of blood won't affect me in the slightest. Gao Jingyu said with unshakable certainty. Military Academy physical exams only test real-time vitals. They can't detect temporary blood loss. There's nothing to worry about. And Runing nodded casually. Same for me. The sports fitness test is still half a semester away. I'll bounce back after a couple days rest. 5 free moral education points and absolute steal. Both were student athletes who trained year-round, brimming with unwavering faith in their physical strength. They never imagined blood loss as a minor would inflict permanent damage to their hematopoietic systems, harm that no short break could reverse. Wu Xiaoyang sat alone in the corner, quietly flipping through his textbook without uttering a word. His fingers rubbed repeatedly against the edges of the pages, betraying his inner anxiety. Still, he did not backtrack or cross his name off the list. He dared not. Senior 3 classes formed tight, insular social circles. Anyone who stood out as different was always the first to be isolated. For the entire afternoon, every student in class chattered non-stop about tomorrow's blood donation event. No one worked through exercises. No one reviewed lessons. Every single person reveled in the prospect of awards, bonus points and praise soon to come. Sunlight streamed through the windows onto the desks, its warm glow falling over youthful, vibrant, confident faces. The brighter, more self-assured and triumphant they looked right now, the more devastating their inevitable downfall would be, shortly before dismissal in the evening. When Zee stood once more to go over arrangements, everyone get an early night and stay up cramming. Stay well rested tomorrow. The blood collection process is quick, and we can return straight to the classroom to rest afterward. The teacher has secured extra self-study buffer time for us. Her thoughtful, meticulous manner won her another wave of favorable impressions. Mr. Gung nodded approvingly. When Zee has thought of everything, tomorrow, follow the medical staff's instructions and donate blood in an orderly fashion to uphold the standards of our key class. The dismissal bell rang, and students packed their bags one by one, filing out in small groups still discussing tomorrow's donation. I'm going first tomorrow. I'll take a photo to post on my social media to commemorate this charitable blood drive. Our class is definitely winning outstanding class this time. I am so proud. The buzz of voices faded little by little, leaving the classroom empty and quiet. I packed my bag slowly, stood up, and glanced at the brand new charity blood donation poster pasted beside the blackboard. Bright, polished words blazed across its surface. Warm blood for charity. Youth upholds kindness. How bitterly ironic. I remembered vividly the blood collection scene from my past life tomorrow, eager to hit their donation quotas. The medical staff ignored our underage status and drew blood according to adult standards. 200 milliliters was negligible for a fully grown adult, yet it would be the final straw breaking our overtaxed teenage bodies. Some grew dizzy and unsteady on their feet on the spot. Others turned deathly pale, overcome with cold chills. Nausea washed over many, leaving them drenched in cold sweat. Yet every symptom of distress was brushed off with a casual line. This is a normal reaction. Rest a moment and you'll feel better. No one halted the process. No one took accountability. No one cared about our fragile young bodies. All anyone recalled was that our whole class had selflessly given blood for a good cause and brought honor to our school. I slung my backpack over my shoulder and stepped out of the classroom. A cool evening breeze stirred the hem of my school I-form. No flicker of satisfaction stirred in my heart, only a clear, icy calm. I had harmed no one. I had simply chosen not to save them. I merely let every vain, conformist, greedy, cowardly soul bear the consequences of their own choices. Tomorrow, the curtain would fully rise. The countdown to the collapse of their lives officially begins now. Right after morning self-study the next day, Teacher Gung led the 37 registered students toward the auditorium. I did not join their line. Instead, I stayed behind in the classroom with my exercise books to study alone. Through the window, I had a clear view of figures filing in and out of the auditorium entrance. I stayed in the classroom on purpose, not to avoid suspicion, but to spare myself the sight of people who would soon endure agonizing physical distress. I also wanted to prevent anyone from casually dragging me along, sparking pointless entanglement. Scenes of chaos and distress from the blood donation site in my past life replayed endlessly in my mind. I gripped my pen tight, forcing myself to focus on practice problems. Yet my ears remained attuned to every sound drifting over from the auditorium. Less than half an hour passed before Wen Ziyi's clear, bright voice carried all the way down the corridor. Loud enough for me to hear distinctly. Line up neatly. No pushing. Step forward in the registration order we set yesterday. I'll check everyone's information over here. Jiang Yunua's sycophantic tone followed close behind. You've worked so hard, Ziyi. Once everyone finishes donating, we'll treat you to warm milk. Don't go out of your way for me. It's enough that we pulled this event off well, Wen Ziyi replied gently and impeccably. Carefully upholding her flawless public persona, a faint cold tug pulled at the corner of my mouth. She reveled in being the center of everyone's attention right now, oblivious that within a few hours, this sought-after glory would be torn apart by crippling physical pain. Roughly 20 minutes later, a commotion erupted from the auditorium, mingled with quiet gasps and flustered murmurs that shattered the earlier orderly atmosphere. I set down my pen and walked to the window to peer outside. I caught sight of An Rinning leaning against the auditorium railing, her face as pale as paper. Beads of cold sweat dotted thickly across her forehead. Her chest rose and fell rapidly as she gasped for air. Nurse Pan, in charge of blood collection, handed her a cup of lukewarm water with a dismissive tone, showing no trace of alarm. This happens to everyone donating for the first time. Your qi and blood can't keep up temporarily. Lean on the rail and rest for 3 to 5 minutes. You'll be fine. And Rinning pressed her temples with a trembling hand, her voice weak and hollow. Nurse, my dizziness is unbearable. Everything keeps going dark before my eyes. It's just a normal physical reaction. You teenagers stay up late cramming, so your qi and blood are naturally deficient. 200 milliliters is hardly a large volume. Rest a while and you'll bounce back. Nurse Pan brushed off her distress with a casual reassurance before turning to call the next student forward, never slowing the pace of blood draws. Wen Ziyi had just finished her own donation, a hemostatic cotton pad taped to her arm. She hurried over to steady An Rinning, her tone laced with mild concern, yet a barely concealed flicker of irritation lurked in her eyes. Someone falling ill on the spot threatened to ruin the polished, charitable spectacle she had worked so hard to orchestrate. Yunhua, help Rinning over to the bench to sit and recover. Don't block the students waiting in line. Jiang Yunhua immediately slipped an arm around An Rinning, murmuring comfort. Bear with it a little longer. Once this wraps up we can head back to class. An Rinning's legs trembled with weakness. She barely managed to shuffle to the bench and sink down, her fingers crumpling the hem of her school uniform so tight she lacked the strength even to lift her head. The queue kept moving forward, and Gao Jingyu stepped up to the donation station next. He maintained an extremely rigorous training schedule all year and had assumed his physical tolerance far surpassed average students. But the moment the needle pierced his vein and blood flowed steadily down the tube, color drained from his face at a visible rate. The blood bag slowly filled. Yet Nurse Pan made no move to reduce the volume, drawing the full adult standard amount without compromise. Gao Jingyu spoke quietly. Nurse, my heart is racing uncomfortably. Can you take less blood? Nurse Pan glanced briefly at his registration form and replied flatly. Every form is marked for 200 milliliters. The volume cannot be altered arbitrarily. Hold on 2 more minutes and we'll be done. High school students have sturdy constitutions. The small amount of blood won't overwhelm you. Gao Jingyu pressed his lips together and said no more. Enduring the draw until completion. When he stepped down from the station, his steps were unsteady, and he leaned against the wall to catch his breath. More and more students in the crowd showed clear signs of discomfort. After donating, Wu Zhaoyang kept his head hung low. Drained of all energy, with no desire to chat with anyone beside him, Yin Xingran sat on a bench, continuously massaging her temples, repeating that her head felt heavy and the words on her textbooks blurred and overlapped when she tried to read. Meng Lekai, who had been joking and chattering lively earlier, sat silent to one side, his lips tinged an ashen blue, stripped of his usual boisterous energy. 3 or 4 students in succession suffered spells of dizziness, nausea and limp limbs. Yet Nurse Pan repeated the same stock response each time, handing them warm water and telling them to rest where they stood. She never halted the donation process, nor summoned the school doctor to examine anyone. Teacher Geng lingered by the auditorium entrance. Though he watched student after student fall unwell, he only tossed out a few casual reminders to rest. His mind remained fixed firmly on moral education points and the civilized class award, never pausing to consider the hidden dangers of heavy blood loss for underage minors. When Ziyi wove back and forth through the crowd, soothing distressed students while keeping the queue orderly, but her own condition steadily deteriorated. She had felt faint during her own blood draw but forced herself to hide it. After standing for so long, her frame swayed unsteadily, and Jiang Yunhua caught her arm in time. Ziyi, why don't you sit down and rest? I can oversee things here. I can't. More than a dozen students still need to donate. I can't abandon this halfway. When Ziyi gently pulled her arm free from Jiang Yunhua's grip, forcing her back straight. I can withstand this mild discomfort. I can't fail the responsibility the teacher entrusted to me. Teacher Geng happened to pass by and overheard her words, immediately praising her to the remaining students nearby. Everyone take Wen Ziyi as your example. She bears a strong sense of duty and persists with her work even when unwell. This is the role model you ought to emulate. The remaining undonated students heard this. Though faint fear gnawed at them, none dared back down. They gritted their teeth and shuffled forward in line, terrified of being labeled cowardly, selfish, or a burden to the class. Each endured their physical malaise to finish the blood draw. An hour later, all 37 students had completed their donations. A stifling, lifeless hush hung over the auditorium, a stark contrast to the cheerful excitement that filled the room that morning. Most of the once bright, confident teenagers stood deathly pale, walking with floating, unsteady steps and speaking in faint, listless voices. When Ziyi carried the signed blood donation receipts over to Teacher Geng to hand them in, her fingers trembled slightly, and her speech slowed noticeably. Teacher, everyone has finished donating. All the receipts are here. Teacher Geng took the stack of papers, skimmed through them, and broke into a satisfied grin, completely oblivious to her terrible state. You've done an outstanding job. I'll submit the list to the Moral Education Office this afternoon. Our class is certain to win the Outstanding Charity Class title. Head back to your classrooms to study now. Anyone feeling unwell may rest their heads on their desks. The group trundled slowly out of the auditorium, passing the classroom windows on the ground floor of the teaching building. I heard their conversation crystal clear. Meng Lekai's voice came out hoarse. My whole body feels weak right now. I can barely grip a pen. I don't think I'll make it through afternoon drills. And Rinning leaned her weight on Jiang Yunhua's shoulder. Utterly drained. My limbs ache all over. I won't be able to keep up with physical training tomorrow. If I'd known how terrible this would feel, I never would have signed up. Jiang Yunhua comforted her softly. It's only temporary. You'll recover after 2 or 3 days of rest. We've already earned the extra points, so it's not a loss. Yin Xingran frowned deeply, her tone thick with anxiety. My mind goes blank the second I look at practice questions, and my memory feels drastically worse. The mock exams start in 2 months if I stay like this. My grades will definitely plummet. Gao Jingyu fell silent for a moment before murmuring quietly. My heart was beating wildly while they drew blood. I'm worried this will affect my military academy physical examination later on. Wu Zhaoyang did not join their conversation. He simply trailed at the very end of the line, head drooping, wrapped in a heavy, despondent aura, when Ziyi walked at the front of the group, still striving to maintain a composed bearing. Yet her steps faltered, forcing her to pause repeatedly to steady her breathing. She heard the complaints drifting from behind her, and a flicker of panic stirred in her chest. Though she refused to let it show, she glanced back and spoke soft reassurance to the others. Try not to over-worry. This is just a short-term deficiency of qi and blood. Eat more nourishing food and turn in early, and you'll fully recover. It won't disrupt your studies or daily training at all. She spoke with unshakable certainty. Yet for the first time, an indistinct unease gnawed at her heart. Still, this vague dread was quickly smothered by the prospect of the merit awards soon to be hers. The group filed slowly back into the classroom, each collapsing forward onto their desks to rest. The once boisterous room fell to an eerie silence, broken only by faint, labored gasps. I remained seated at my desk, watching the 37 listless figures before me with unwavering calm, not a shred of pity stirring inside my chest. The dizziness, exhaustion and palpitations they suffered today were merely the beginning. The truly irreversible physical damage would surface bit by bit over the coming weeks, shattering their academics, futures and bodies, dragging every single one of them step by step into an abyss. This fleeting bout of discomfort was nothing more than the faintest warning before their fates crumbled completely. 3 weeks after the blood collection, the mock exam rankings were posted on the bulletin board in the corridor. Students from all senior 3 classes on the floor crowded around to check their results. The 37 classmates in our class who had donated blood all suffered a precipitous drop in their rankings, such a drastic slew. That teachers from the neighboring classes even came over to ask what had happened. I stood on the outskirts of the crowd. I did not need to push through for a close look. The constant stream of sighs around me told me everything I needed to know. When Ziyi was the first to squeeze to the front of the ranking sheet, she traced upward with her finger to find her name, once consistently ranked within the top 80 students in the grade. She had plummeted straight to over 230. She crumpled the paper tight, her shoulders trembling uncontrollably. Her once fair skin now tinged a sallow, ashen yellow. Jiang Yunua rushed up right behind her. The second she saw her score, tears welled up in her eyes, her voice cracking with sobs. Ziyi. My ranking dropped more than 120 places. When I read exam questions, I can't retain the information halfway through. My head spun non-stop during the test, and I couldn't focus at all. When Ziyi barely managed to steady herself, forcing a stiff smile, suppressed panic thick in her tone. I'm the same. When I took the math exam, I stared blankly at question types I'd practiced countless times before. My mind went completely empty, and I couldn't write out a single solving step even after staring at the page for ages. Their conversation drifted to the ears of the other blood donors, who slowly gathered around, every face etched with unmaskable anxiety. Yin Xingran had always been recognized as our class's steady top performer, reliably landing within the grade's top 50 year after year. This time, she tumbled all the way to 190th place. Her knuckles whitened as she squeezed her transcript hard, her voice shaking. I can't memorize anything I study anymore. Knowledge points I recite in the morning feel brand new when I flip the textbook at noon. If I look down to work a couple of problems in class, my vision blurs the moment I lift my head, and none of the teacher's lessons sink in. Gao Jingyu stood beside them with a heavy, grim expression. His grades had fallen, but the trouble with his athletic training weighed far more heavily on his mind. Yesterday during extra physical drills, I started palpitating and felt chest tightness after only half a lap. My heartbeat racing out of control. My coach ordered me to halt all high-intensity training. The physical fitness screening is next week at this rate. I'll never secure the separate recruitment spot. And military academy physical exams are completely out of the question. And Running leaned against the wall, drained of all energy. The athlete who once finished full-distance runs without breaking a sweat now needed to stop and rest after climbing just 2 flights of stairs. My menstrual cycle stopped cold last week and hasn't returned this entire month. I wake up drenched in cold sweat every night. And fight constant drowsiness in class. Even if I go to bed sharp at 10 every night, I'm still foggy-headed the next day. Wu Zhaoyang lingered at the very back of the crowd, head bowed, too ashamed to glance at the rankings. His grades had hovered around average before. Yet now he sat near the bottom of the class. His parents had met with head teacher Geng a few days prior, convinced he'd slacked off and wasted his senior 3-year fooling around. And they quarreled with him non-stop at home. He dared not tell them about his persistent physical distress after donating blood. Forced to bottle up all his grievance alone. Mang Lekai, the class clown who once never stopped cracking jokes, hung his head silent for a long time before murmuring quietly, "I can't sustain focus for long now. It takes 3 or 4 separate sittings just to finish one full exam paper. Any mental exertion leaves me nauseous. My parents are already discussing making me repeat my senior year." Their huddled, dejected group caught head teacher Geng's eye as he walked past. He frowned and strode over, disapproval sharp in his voice. "Your overall performance has deteriorated drastically these past few weeks. Especially all of you who donated blood. Did you slack off after the exams? Staying up late scrolling on your phones?" When Zi instinctively tried to defend herself, yet her confidence crumbled away. "Teacher, we haven't slacked at all. We drill practice questions deep into the night every day. Our bodies just keep feeling unwell. And we struggle to concentrate. Unwell. I told you all to rest properly the day of the blood draw. 3 weeks is more than enough time to recover. How could you still feel terrible?" Geng refused to believe them, dismissing their complaints as lazy excuses to avoid studying. "When Zi, you were the one who took charge of organizing this event, so you should set a better example. Don't use poor health as an excuse for falling grades." His words left Wen Zi speechless. Grief and frustration clogged her throat, her eyes instantly glistening with tears. Yet she had no solid argument to fight back. The school had tacitly allowed minors to give blood. The medical staff had only mentioned temporary discomfort, never warning anyone about permanent qi and blood depletion, even if she wanted to explain how sick she felt. There was no one to hold accountable. The crowd slowly dispersed, everyone trundling back to the classroom wrapped in heavy, oppressive silence. Once seated, the calm hum of focused studying that usually filled the room vanished entirely. Sighs and the sound of students massaging their temples echoed through every minute of class. Jiang Yunua rested her head on her folded arms atop her desk, whispering tearfully to Wen Zi, "My mom took me to a clinic. The doctor said I have severe anemia and critical qi and blood deficiency. He prescribed piles of tonic medicine, but after nearly a week of taking it, I haven't improved one bit. The doctor said losing so much blood at my young age means my body will take an extremely long time to recuperate." When Zi stroked the faint, faded needle mark on her arm, panic mounting relentlessly inside her. She had frequent spells of blurred vision in class these days, and had fainted outright during self-study last week. The school nurse had only laid her down in the lounge for half a period, merely advising her to eat more red dates and lean meat without digging into the root cause. The Moral Education Office had already notified her that her guaranteed spot for school-level outstanding student was now under reconsideration, citing her recent volatile grades. She had volunteered to lead the blood drive solely to accumulate honors, yet now she had lost the awards, ruined both her health and academic performance. The devastating contrast filled her with overwhelming regret, though she dared not show it publicly. Forced to endure everything alone, Yin Xingran pulled out her error notebook, staring blankly at its dense markings. "I've tried waking up an hour early every day to memorize textbooks, drunk blood-nourishing oral tonics, and napped at my desk during breaks. But my memory has never bounced back to how it used to be. Constant dizziness leaves me unable to keep pace with lessons. If this continues, I have no shot at a key university." During the break, Gao Jingyu went to speak with his coach about training. He returned with a dark, lifeless expression and sat down to mutter to the boy beside him. "My coach said my heart rate is unstable, and high-intensity training puts me at risk of fainting. He's removed me from the physical screening candidate list entirely. Military academies have strict physical standards, and persistent palpitations like mine will guarantee rejection during medical examinations. That impulsive decision to donate blood single-handedly destroyed the 2 years of preparation I put in, and Rinning headed to the restroom during the break. Returning with unsteady footsteps. Once seated, she leaned over to whisper to Jiang Yunhua, her voice lowered to barely audible. The gynecologist said heavy blood loss as a minor damages the hematopoietic system, throwing hormone balance into disarray that cannot be fixed quickly. It might disrupt my menstrual health long-term. I'd planned to get into a normal university through athletic separate recruitment. But my stamina is gone now, my whole future plan is in ruins. Wu Xiaoyang rarely initiated conversation. Yet he edged over to Meng Lekai during lunch break, uttering words heavy with helplessness. My parents went through my transcript yesterday and argued with me until midnight, saying I don't appreciate my chance to study. I'm too scared to tell them how exhausted I am every day after donating blood. Afraid they'll scold me for blindly following the crowd. My mind wanders constantly in class. The more anxious I get, the less I can absorb. Meng Lekai let out a bitter laugh, rubbing his throbbing temples. Mental work gives me splitting headaches now. I suffer from insomnia and vivid nightmares every night, and my mind drifts non-stop during the day. The pressure of repeating Senior 3 is already weighing on me. I joined in just chasing extra merit points, and now the loss far outweighs any small gain. I sat a short distance away, quietly listening to all their woes while my pen moved steadily across my practice workbook. Utterly unmoved inside, every ounce of their suffering stemmed from choices they had made of their own free will. No one had forced them to sign up. They had all been swept away by greed for bonus points, honors, social acceptance, and the desire for the spotlight, willfully ignoring the hidden risks to their bodies. Now irreversible physical damage had fully surfaced, triggering a chain collapse of grades, athletic prospects, health, and family harmony, and this was only the midpoint of their spiraling ruin. The lunch break bell rang. Most of the blood donors slumped forward on their desks and fell straight asleep, too drained to walk to the cafeteria for lunch, when Ziyi clutched her mock exam paper with its dismal score of 300 points, sitting alone in a daze. The class beauty who had once been adored by everyone now radiated nothing but desolation, stripped of all the glory she'd enjoyed when leading the charity drive. By chance, she lifted her head and our gazes met. After a moment's hesitation, she spoke softly. Chu Yanhe, your performance has stayed rock solid lately, and your mock exam ranking even climbed quite a bit. Do you pay extra attention to nourishing your body? I looked up at her, my tone flat and calm, without a hint of mockery or pity. I keep a regular schedule and never overtax my body, so I won't suffer from extra physical depletion dragging me down. That single sentence pierced straight through her deepest remorse. Her lips parted as if to speak, yet she said nothing in the end. She dropped her head to stare rigidly at the paper covered in red cross marks, her fingertips trembling faintly. She was beginning to grasp, at last, that the seemingly glorious charity blood drive had been the very force that slammed the door shut on her future. But it was far too late. The damage wrought by depleted chi and blood could never be reversed. Fallen grades could not be recovered, and lost opportunities would never return. With only a little over 2 months left until the college entrance exam, the chronic physical damage had already taken root. What awaited them next was an entirely irreparable end. The bell rang to signal the end of the English exam, the final subject of the college entrance examination. Sighs rippled through the exam hall, drowning out all other noise. I set down my pen, neatly sorted my answer sheets without hurry, then stood up and walked out of the examination room. The school gate was packed with parents waiting for their children. I spotted Wen Ziyi and the others at a glance amid the crowd. Every one of their faces was etched with unmistakable dejection, a stark contrast to the other students walking out laughing and lighthearted. When Ziyi leaned on Jiang Yunhua's arm, her steps unsteady, her face was sallow and drained of all color. She had fainted halfway through the 2 comprehensive science papers. The invigilator had helped her rest outside the exam hall for 20 minutes before she managed to finish the test. When she saw me passing by, she paused instinctively, her eyes heavy with exhaustion and deep regret. Chu Yanhe, I suppose your exam went smoothly. Her voice was faint, as if she barely had the strength to lift her gaze and meet mine. I gave a slight nod, my tone calm and steady. I performed as usual. There were no major hurdles. Jiang Yunua's eyes welled up with tears beside her, her fingers twisting the hem of her school uniform non-stop. The grievances she had bottled up for weeks finally spilled over. Midway through the exam, my head ached so badly I could barely hold it up. The vocabulary in the reading passages looked familiar. Yet my mind simply refused to function. I left most of the major essay questions blank. I'm certain I won't get into any university this year. I told my mother about my constant dizziness and missed periods, and she took me for a thorough checkup at a large hospital. The doctor said my hematopoietic function has been damaged. It will take at least 3 to 5 years of conditioning to recover, and it will weaken my physical constitution permanently. And Rinning stood off to the side, clutching a discarded athletic separate recruitment receipt so tightly her fingers crumpled the paper. After failing the fitness screening, she had pinned all her hopes on her academic subjects. Yet the memory loss brought on by excessive blood loss left her unable to memorize even basic formulas. She drifted through the entire college entrance exam in a foggy daze. Both paths I planned for myself are gone. I can't pursue athletics, and my academic scores won't even clear the junior college cutoff. My family nags me every day for recklessly signing up to donate blood back then, but the whole class was egging each other on. How could I have been the only one to refuse? Gao Jingyu leaned against a wall, holding a preliminary military physical examination report marked with a glaring red note of arrhythmia. The path to military academy was completely closed off, and every carefully laid out plan for his future had crumbled to nothing. He fell into a near-numb silence. The doctor diagnosed insufficient myocardial blood supply, a chronic condition triggered by losing a large volume of blood in such a short time. Intense training and consistent late nights will trigger palpitations repeatedly. Forget enlisting in the military. I won't even be able to sustain ordinary manual labor long-term. Yin Xingran had once been the top scholar upon whom her entire family pinned all their hopes. Yet her estimated score would not even reach the second-tier undergraduate threshold. She hugged a thick stack of review materials to her chest, eyes red-rimmed, her voice heavy with helplessness. I've been taking blood-nourishing tonics, keeping early hours to recuperate. Yet I still cannot sustain focus. Everything I memorize slips from my mind the second I look away. Back then I only fixated on the extra moral education points and the boost to my comprehensive evaluation file, completely ignoring how much underage bodies cannot withstand heavy blood loss. All my years of hard work have amounted to nothing. Wu Zhaoyang kept his head bowed, too ashamed to look anyone in the eye. His projected score barely qualified him for the lowest-tier private junior college with exorbitant tuition fees, sparking endless quarrels between his parents and casting a suffocating gloom over his household. My parents keep saying I slacked off during Senior 3, but only I know the truth. Ever since the blood donation, I've struggled with drowsiness every single class, and any mental exertion leaves me nauseous. I dare not explain the root of my poor health to them, forced to endure all their blame alone. Meng Lekai leaned against the flower bed, stripped of all his usual cheerfulness. He had resolved to repeat his final year of high school. Yet the thought of drilling exam questions for another year while plagued by chronic weakness and dizziness filled him with despair. Even repeating a year may not fix things. Now splitting my attention on studying for an hour brings on splitting migraines, and chronic insomnia drains all my vitality. My body cannot handle the brutal pace of Senior 3 anymore. I joined in just for the fun of it back then, and ruined years of my life in one careless choice. The group huddled together, murmuring their sorrows. Every complaint circled back to the blood donation drive when Ziyi had spearheaded, and the others' gazes drifted toward her, laden with unspoken resentment. Sensing their stares, when Ziyi's shoulders trembled slightly, a tight weight constricting her chest and robbing her of breath. No one had suffered a sharper reversal of fortune than her. She had been guaranteed admission to a key university and a lock on the school-level Outstanding Student Award. Yet her greedy craving for superficial glory had driven her to volunteer organizing the drive. Now her grades had plummeted, her eligibility for the merit award revoked, and she battled persistent weakness and frequent fainting spells. Condemned to years of suffering from chronic qi and blood depletion, I only wanted to win honor for our class and earn more moral education points. I never imagined everything would turn out like this. Her voice grew hoarse. tears pooling in her eyes. If I hadn't stepped forward to tally the registration forms that day, maybe none of you would have rushed to sign up. Seeing her break down in grief, Jiang Yunhua quickly patted her back gently. Yet regret lingered in her words. Everyone fawned over you back then. And the teacher held you in such high regard anyone would have been tempted. We all simply underestimated how devastating blood loss could be for minors like us. Teacher Gung happened to walk out of the school building and caught sight of the group's dejected faces. He hurried over, glanced at their estimated score slips, and knit his brows tightly. Your overall scores fell far short of expectations this year. At the time of the donation, I only thought you'd face temporary discomfort. I never anticipated the damage would linger for so long. I've reported this incident to the Moral Education Office. But the blood bank claims participation was fully voluntary and refuses to cover any costs for your long-term physical conditioning. His words shattered the last flicker of hope they clung to. No party would take responsibility for their ruined health and shattered futures, leaving them to bear every bitter consequence entirely on their own. I stood a short distance away, listening quietly, making no move to comfort them nor to sneer at their misfortune. This was the path they had chosen for themselves, craving honor, fearing ostracism, blindly following the crowd, overconfident in their own bodies. Every selfish impulse combined to stage this farce that laid waste to most of their youthful prospects. In my past life, I had been dragged unwillingly into the chaos, enduring years of frailty and academic failure, forced to watch their radiant veneer crumble into ruin. In this life, I stood apart, observing the unalterable chain of cause and effect with cold detachment. I never schemed to harm anyone, I merely chose not to stand in their way. When official college entrance examination scores were released that summer, only 2 of the 37 students who had donated blood scraped past the second-tier undergraduate cutoff. The rest either landed at the very bottom of junior college admissions or had no choice but to repeat their senior year. All student athletes and military academy candidates lost their predetermined life paths. When Ziyi's score fell nearly 100 points short of the undergraduate line, plagued by persistent anemia and dizzy spells, she was confined to bed to recuperate every time the seasons changed. The once dazzling, sought-after class beauty never recovered her former confident, bright spirit. Jiang Yunhua endured perpetual menstrual irregularities, reliant on long-term herbal medication to stabilize her health. In Rinning abandoned her athletic dreams entirely and took odd part-time jobs to support her family. Gao Jingyu let go of his aspiration to enlist and enrolled in an ordinary technical school. Yin Xingran repeated her final year. Yet crippling memory loss continued to hold her back, and she ultimately only gained admission to a remote junior college. Wu Zhaoyang attended a private college, with steep annual tuition fees fueling endless domestic conflict. Meng Lekai failed his repeat year exams and left school early to enter the workforce.